All right, let's get it. You're watching Dallas Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. A lot to get to on today's show, so without further ado, let's hop right into the latest Dallas Mavericks news and rumors. And we knew things were heading in this direction with Kyrie Irving. There was some light buzz that Dallas was interested, but at the end of the day, it never made a lot of sense. And according to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, the Mavericks not interested in Kyrie, one of the biggest mercurial superstars that we've ever seen in the history of the league. He said this: at least one member of the Dallas Mavericks organization believed that there was any coach Irving would want to play for. Guess who it would be? Jason Kidd, his idol growing up as a Nets fan. The Nets called the Mavericks to gauge their interest level in an Irving trade, league sources told Hoops Hype. Dallas, however, did not reciprocate much interest in trading for Kyrie. And really what it comes down to is not Irving's level of play or his talent. He's one of the best and most gifted guards that we've ever seen of all time, especially finishing around the rim, having the ball on a string. I mean, his handle is unbelievable, and what he can do at all three levels really is special, and it's one of one. That's the good. There's a lot of bad, though, in addition to him having that weird personality, just going missing from the Nets a couple of years ago without informing Steve Nash. Part of that is unreliability and his lack of availability. It's cost him, it's cost his team, and as you can see right here, he's missed a lot of games. 2019-20, 52 of them. The following year, 18, and this past year, 53 games. And I thought it was funny how everybody was like, Kyrie, you look at the shooting numbers. They're the best that they've ever been. Well, if you're only playing one game a week, it's like any of us as the common folk playing pickup. We're going to feel good when we first play pickup, then a day or two later, we're extremely sore, and our production not going to be the same. For Kyrie, he was well rested, and I think that helped out his shooting numbers. That's not to say he's not a special cat, because he is, but his numbers were inflated, in my opinion, because of that. And the Mavericks, when you look at the team continuity, the team camaraderie, and this roster construction, they're with this new era of Jason Kidd, Luka Doncic, Nico Harrison, built on chemistry and that aforementioned camaraderie. And you don't want to risk costing that by bringing in Kyrie Irving, a player who would play well alongside Luka Doncic, but we know that Luka is all hoop all the time. I mean, shoot, he goes to the Western Conference Finals, looks like a bona fide MVP candidate, and he's been playing internationally with Slovenia. Like, this guy just loves to play basketball. So I can imagine him looking at Kyrie. He's like, yeah, Kyrie just did not show up to the arena tonight. Like, that would be really weird for him because the dude is so devoted to his craft, and Kyrie is as well, but he has these weird reasons for why he doesn't get on the basketball floor, in addition to all of the injuries that we've seen over the last several years. So you look at this lineup here, it's special. It would be good. We'll see if Christian Wood comes in off the bench, if he's the starter. That's a really big looming question mark for Jason Kidd in this organization. JaVale McGee, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber. This is a team that has depth. It has this star in Luka Doncic. They need that other complementary piece. With Jalen Brunson leaving, it looks as though it is not going to be Kyrie. Now, I've let my feelings be known about this. What do you think, though? That's what we're about here at Chat Sports and on Mavericks Today. We want you to be a part of the shows. Should the Mavs trade for Kyrie? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Of course, if they do, if they make any other moves, if there's a big news item out there or a juicy rumor that we have to hit, we're going to cover it right here on the channel, whether it's me or Harrison Graham. YouTube.com/MavsTV. Hit that sub button down below. Now, we've seen these pictures of Luka Doncic looking ripped with the fine-tuned biceps. Looks as though he's slimmed some weight. Well, he finally had an opportunity to speak to the media, spent the weekend in Paris at a Jordan Street Ball event alongside Zion Williamson. Trade for Zion. Yeah, we're not talking about that on today's show. We are talking about what Luka Doncic had to say about the Mavs' moves and lack thereof in NBA free agency. He said this about the lack of movement for Dallas. Well, the market has only just begun, and I hope that the Dallas bosses have more options to sign. Let's see what they do. I'm not thinking about changing teams. My goal is to stay and win it in Dallas, although, of course, in the future, you never know. But my idea, and hopefully I succeed, is to win in Dallas. So Luka here basically is applying healthy pressure. He doesn't want his Mavericks tenure and stint to end up a lot like LeBron James in Cleveland, where it was really just a one-man show, and night in, night out, without the support of others, it was LeBron James having to lead the charge, and then he had to rely on Boobie Gibson to be his Robin to the Batman. Luka doesn't want that. He had that guy who was legit in Jalen Brunson. Now it's like, okay, Mark, Nico, what are we going to do to replace his production? What other moves can we make? And what's interesting there with that quote, he said, you never know what happens in the future about him potentially changing teams. We know that when superstars get disgruntled, especially a competitor like Luka, they take that trade demand to the front office. Hopefully that doesn't happen with Dallas and Luka Doncic. No toxicity here, but urging Nico and Cuban to simply make some moves. And here are the moves that the Mavs have made. Christian Wood via trade, really liked it. Stretch 4, can play a little 5, knock down the 3, a little bit finesse. Maybe not as finesse as a guy like Kristaps Porzingis. I actually like Wood the player better now as compared to Kristaps following the injuries. And then JaVale McGee as your rim runner and rim protector at a pretty good value deal, 3 years, $20 million. Now, free agency, that market somewhat slow. Of course, in the NBA, you can always make a trade. And if the Mavericks want to upgrade their roster via the trade market, here are some of their tradable contracts here. Dwight Powell, Tim Hardaway Jr., Spencer Dinwiddie, Davis Bertans, and Reggie Bullock. Those are pretty solid pieces that other NBA teams could have interest in if the Mavericks want to wheel and deal to improve this roster to a certain degree. Mavs still have the ammo if they do want to make a move. And I think the pressure is on from Luka, from the fan base, from an overall basketball logic standpoint that this team needs to improve. I like the depth. You have the star in Luka. When you have a guy like that, you can always make deep runs in the NBA playoffs. But we saw against the Golden State Warriors, they came up just a little bit short, and now without Brunson, they'd come up even more short. Name someone the Mavs should sign or trade for. Do that right now. We'll tell you about today's sponsor, how you can get an awesome Dallas Mavericks hat, and then around the corner, yeah, we're going to talk some NBA Summer League. Jaden Hardy coming back to earth. But I told you, Dallas Mavericks, dope hat, available right now. Chatsports.com/NBA hats. You plug in that link, you can get that hot deal. I'll put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. The cool thing about hats, you can rock them any time of year, any time of day. Chatsports.com/NBA hats is the link. So the Mavs fall to 0-2 in the NBA Summer League. They fall 83-82 to the Utah Jazz. Pretty funny that on Friday we're talking about Jaden Hardy going off, a masterful performance. He was just cooking on the offensive end. Then we don't get an opportunity to see him again until Monday. Very clunky scheduling in the NBA Summer League. But Hardy, as I said and alluded to earlier, came back to earth a little bit. He was airballing shots, seemed to be off, couldn't find a rhythm, just couldn't find his shot. Still finishes with 14 points, 4 field goals on 15 attempts. Obviously not ideal. 2 3-pointers on 7 attempts. And A.J. Lawson for the second consecutive game was pretty solid, actually. 15 points, 6 of 11 shooting, 2 3-pointers on 4 attempts, as the young guns continuing to show some glimpses of a little bit of hope with the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously Hardy more so as part of that conversation. And with the second game against Utah, the first game, you saw, okay, this guy has a lot of offensive moves in his arsenal. He could do a bunch of things at the NBA level that will certainly translate. But what did I tell you on yesterday's show? He fell to a second rounder, and ideally his role is a guy who comes in off the bench. He can go on a heater. He can catch some flames. But then another night, he's going to be disastrous. He's going to be tough to watch, and he's going to be very inconsistent when he hits those cold spells. And that's what he showed last night. He showed why he was the second-round pick, not quite consistent night in, night out to be that first-round guy and a guy who's worthy of a lot of minutes from the get-go. And he's going to have to improve on that over time. Bad shot selection, I also thought in the second game. And that's part of the good and bad with Jaden Hardy. When he's hitting the step-back threes from 25 feet, it looks great. When he's forcing up ill-advised shots early in the shot clock, making bad decisions, turning the basketball over, you're like, okay, he needs some fine-tuning to his game. As for Lawson, I kind of like him. I mean, you have a little bit of Dorian Finney-Smith here with the guy who's been a little bit overshadowed, underlooked, but has nice size, 6'6", scoring wing with some length. Not the defensive player that Dodo is, but somewhat similar body types. And You look at the Mavs roster right now. Obviously, still hopefully moves to be made in free agency or through the trade market, but the Mavs need cheap wing help, and Lawson could be worth at least a camp invite. I understand it's the NBA Summer League, but when a player shows that he can hoop, then usually, oftentimes, to a certain degree, he can hoop. So who has caught your eye? Summer League MVP so far for the Dallas Mavericks. Let me know right now in the comment section. Still games left to be played. Hopefully Hardy can continue to improve and show some flashes of him being a guy who the Mavs had a first-round grade on. Either way, drop me a name. Don't forget to subscribe. Appreciate you guys for rocking with us.